Hi, I'm Jim Harris. I'm an international best-selling author on disruptive innovation. And I'm here today with Heiko Claussen, SVP at AspenTech and a data scientist. And we're going to be looking at the incredible volatile world that we live in. I want you to imagine that there's a global pandemic that disrupts the entire world's economy. Like, what a scenario. And you're a pharmaceutical company and you have to go from 2 shifts a day, 5 days a week, to 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week, 365 to manufacture vaccines. Would it be very important to you to have exact process controls in place so that no batch was wasted and you could double, triple output with the same capital intensive equipment? Or a scenario where you're an oil and gas producer and all of a sudden there's a war in the other side of the world that results in gas prices going to the highest price in a decade. Would it be important for you, if you were refining oil, to be able to instantly decide, how do we allocate this production? Is it to jet fuel? Is it to diesel? Is it to gas? Is it to petrochemical base stock? And having the exact process controls industrially in place to make sure that quality exists. So this is the frame for our discussion today with these hypothetical situations, Heiko. So for the first thing, we're in this turbulent time with workforce. We've heard about this great resignation where 47 million Americans voluntarily quit their job in 2021. And we have all these boomers retiring, taking with them all the 40 years of knowledge they had about industrial processes. How can artificial intelligence, how can smart systems help companies transition this huge challenge? How can we capture that knowledge?
Yeah, so this is a very important, as you just mentioned. This is something that is really happening. And it's not just that people are retiring, as you mentioned. It's also that there's a lot of volatility, that people are in the job market for a short period of time. So there's a big need to utilize data and utilize it in a smart way to capture this information that otherwise transitions out, but also to simplify the way we are, building automation software so that people can have a very fast learning curve and become effective very, very quickly.
One of the staggering things is that 50% of the workforce in America are millennials and Gen Zs. And by 2025, it's 75%. So this exodus of boomers with all this knowledge, deep domain knowledge of manufacturing processes, there is an urgency for organizations to begin capturing this knowledge and for AI to begin working with. We often think it's AI or people. It's not. It's AI and people.
Yes. So it's very important to upskill in an organization. So it's not so much about only using the data, but to bring the people along and to have cross functional teams where you bring people with a different set of eyes, different experience all together, and in this way, we're able to capture that knowledge more effectively. Yeah.
Now, this highlights for me something that's a theme I think will emerge from today. It's about partnership. We need the partnership of the retiring boomer with the Gen Z or the millennial who's entering the workforce. We need partnerships from AI specialists with the people who have domain expertise, like the people who operate operational technology, like the manufacturing process. We need partnerships with AspenTech and, a cloud provider, as well as the domain expertise from the client itself. So this notion of partnerships is very important. How do you approach this, and how do you ensure that all these different partners work well together?
Well, this is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we have to address to be successful, because just having an AI scientist that has no background in the domain really does not work. So you want to have someone with a skill that is relevant to that particular domain, and additionally the expertise on the AI. This makes the person much more efficient, makes it possible to have a better communication with a, for example, end customer, this collaboration with the end customers in the end really important to even already in the research phase have an fast innovation cycle where the team can pivot based on the requirements, based on the particular use case, to make sure that in the end they're creating something that really makes a positive impact. And then to collaborate with the product management. So it is necessary, to make sure that the ideas and the technology that is being developed is somewhat fitting within other big frames and the roadmap, so that you're creating maybe low-hanging fruits and therefore faster to the market. So there's lots of stuff to consider and to collaborate to make this successful.
So that's led to an entirely new domain called industrial AI, or industrial data specialist, as opposed to just a data specialist and just somebody with domain expertise. This collaboration is really important. And do you want to talk for a minute about the rise of industrial AI, the rise of the industrial data scientist?
Yeah, so there are a lot of aspects why this is important, and we mentioned a few of them already. So if you want to make an impact in a particular domain, it is really important to know where the pain points are. You cannot necessarily wait for other experts to be available. It's much more efficient if you have the well-rounded domain knowledge in that space. Also, if your company is starting off in that space, it is valuable if you have someone who has a broader scope to start with. It kind of de-risks your path into artificial intelligence. If the alternative would be to build an full-fledged AI team and hope that they are going to find innovative solutions that drive value for your customers. It's much more efficient to grow it as you go.
Yeah, this leads to an interesting thing. Everybody knows that AI will get embedded in all companies and all processes over time. But the premium one pays for a data scientist today or an AI specialist can be very high if you're competing with Google, Microsoft, Meta, and other big tech companies. So this is another advantage of partnerships, that you bring to the table expertise in the industrial space, and you work with the domain experts of a company, upskilling them, so that one of the interesting insights is that AI tools are getting easier to use every single year.
Yes, so that is the key. It doesn't make sense to develop everything from scratch. If you want to be fast and make impact, you want to partner. And therefore streamlining your tool chains, as well as, focusing on what really creates value, where you differentiate, that's really key.
It also would lead me to think that expertise in certain verticals would be important. For instance, you work heavily with the pharmaceutical industry, which is experiencing some pressures on production right now. The oil and gas industry, which as well is, when you have Elon Musk tweeting that he wants to see oil and gas production increasing, when somebody so identified with sustainability is saying that, we need to pay attention to it. So we need to increase oil and gas production very quickly at the moment because of this conflict halfway around the world.
But it's not just about the oil and gas production. In the end,
Exactly.
You can create, chemicals from that. And that's actually a very strong trend right now to, grow directly from, connect these two, connect the, in history, separated petrol production with the chemical production, and optimize these things jointly. And there's a lot more complexity in these systems today than that they were in the past.
Couple more questions, and then we're going to change our focus to another topic. One of the things that is interesting is the values of millennials and Gen Zs. First off, they're very tech focused. So if a company or an industry doesn't have what they consider to be cool tech, they're not going to stay in that company or industry for very long. So I think it's important for your customers to adopt AI because it is seen to be sexy. Like I know here we are, two sexy guys in blue suits, but tech is seen as being very exciting for millennials and Gen Zs.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, but in the end, at least from my point of view, it's more exciting to create what matters. So if you are in a data science space, and particularly in this field of oil and gas, and there's a big transition happening. And as a software company with AspenTech, really partner with our customers to help on this transition. And using AI, we can just do so much more to drive these efficiencies, to drive sustainabilities, and make a really big impact through the scale that we have in the market. And that's what I think is really exciting.
Just to put a pin in it, AspenTech creates $50 billion of value for its customers every single year. This is a huge multiplier in terms of the impact on your customers. And one of the insights I find interesting is the more capital intensive an industry is, the more important intelligence is, the more important the human aspect is. So if we can improve the insights that we gain in real time from operating a manufacturing plant, that can have a huge multiplier on valuation. So just your comments around this.
Yeah, so I mean, I fully agree with you. That's what it really matters. And it's not just that small margin makes a big impact. It's also on the domain. Often safety relevant space. So we've been optimizing, and driving towards sustainability and efficiency, speed, and, for a long time, for 40 years actually here. But with new technology coming, we are adapting and combining this. So it's not that what we've done over the years, we have to, totally change. It's more like an evolution that is happening. And, there's a lot of players that try to solve this in a purely data-driven approach. And data is really important, and we get a little bit later to that.
But as a data scientist, you're saying data is important.
Data is really important.
That is one of the key messages I'm going to take away today.
But we also, are, as I said, in the space where it is really critical to basically, to ensure that constraints are being fulfilled, that you're not running in unsafe operations. And there can be situations, particularly in our volatile environment, where, you have to run in scenarios that you have never seen before. And these formal guarantees, additionally to adaptation to data in the plant, this is what really makes a differentiator. It's not just about running optimal based on data right now in a common known regime. It's also about enabling this flexibility into unknowns to adapt to the environment.
So we started talking about volatility, and there's a term, VUCA, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And we're really living in that kind of VUCA world right now. So I think the point you made is really important. It's not just operations as we've always known them. It's about the flexibility to respond in real time to a changing marketplace, to a changing world, to changing customer demands. And do we have in place the systems and structures to enable us to do that in real time?
Exactly. And I mean, on our side, where it's particularly of importance is on the supply chain side, on the one side, and we have very flexible solutions in this space, but as well on the control side, and you mentioned that already. So to have solutions that are help in real time, that are connected to assets in the field and are real time optimizing with these assets in the loop to optimally fulfill a particular cost function. This is one of our offerings. And what makes it now flexible to such a VUCA environment is that you can change these cost functions very easily. So you can, for example, put a stronger emphasis on sustainability, on CO2 production, or you pivot to more fuel production in a certain batch, as you mentioned before.
So we're going to have a section entirely on sustainability at the end. It's our fourth section. But I just want to raise this concept that anytime we cut waste, we eliminate fuel. We eliminate water usage or energy usage. Anytime we do any of these, it's really a sustainability story. The number one electricity expenditure in my city where I live of 4 million people is water. The city pumps water, refines water, it deals with wastewater, processes water, so the pumping and the water treatment plants, the biggest use of electricity. So when we cut water use, we cut electricity use, we cut carbon emissions. So anything in the industrial process that makes it more efficient cuts waste, inefficiency, or a bad batch of a pharmaceutical that we have to throw out and redo because of temperature variation. All these things are sustainability stories.
Yes.
But we don't necessarily think about them as sustainability. We think about it as inefficiency, waste, water, electricity, so on. Any comments?
So it's, as you mentioned, it's a big topic. So, I mean, when we're talking about sustainability, you mentioned if you drive optimality, that's already a great win because you're just eliminating waste. But we also enable, for example, new technologies like the hydrogen economy, sequestration from to basically recycle plastics, to bring and capture CO2 to bring it back in a safe environment for long-term storage. So it's a pretty big field that is covered that we're very well capturing here.